Good evening. We are so glad you're here. Welcome to the Georgetown Theatre Orchestra's patriotic concert celebrating the 250th anniversary of the United States. I'm Andy Friedman, your host and narrator for this evening. Tonight, we're going to travel from the Revolutionary era to Broadway to Great American Marches with stories and musical highlights along the way. But for now, please silence your cell phone and any other electronics and rise, if you are able, for the Star-Spangled Banner, our national anthem. The words of the Star-Spangled Banner were written by Francis Scott Key in 1814 after he witnessed the bombardment of Fort McHenry during the War of 1812. The melody comes from an earlier tune by John Stafford Smith. Together, they've given us a stirring anthem heard at solemn moments, sporting events, and national celebrations alike. While used by the Navy in 1889 for flag-raising ceremonies and authorized by President Wilson in 1916 for military ceremonies, it wasn't until March 3, 1931 that it was officially designated the United States national anthem by President Herbert Hoover. And that was following 2 years of intense debate by Congress. You might find it hard to believe that objections to the Star-Spangled Banner being officially named our national anthem, among the objections included 1, it was too militaristic, and 2, you couldn't dance to it. Other songs that were possible contenders for the position for the anthem included Hail Columbia, My Country 'Tis Thee, and America the Beautiful. As you heard in the anthem, music has always been woven into the life of this country. To bring that history to life, you saw our fifer, drummer, and flag bearer march down the aisle to the stage. A quick word about these musicians. In Revolutionary War regiments, fifers and drummers were not merely entertainers. They were essential communicators and organizers, using specific calls and drum beats to signal troop movements, wake up and lights out, assemblies, and even commands during battle when voices could not be heard and flags could not be seen. Their rhythms kept marching cadence, steadied nerves, and helped build morale in camp. They also led funerals, accompanied recruits in parades, and helped bind a unit together through shared music. Tonight's march reminds us that music on the battlefield was practical, functional, and deeply human. Music that conveyed orders and comforted soldiers far from home. Our next on the program is Chester. Written around 1770 by William Billings, one of America's earliest native composers. Billings was largely self-taught and published psalmody that was widely sung in colonial New England. Chester became a favorite during the Revolutionary period, a direct line to the voices and convictions of our founders' generation. You'll hear a simple, bold melody that felt right at home, both around a campfire and in meeting houses. And you can see the words to this piece on the screen in front of you as you listen to the orchestra's performance. Chester. Now we present American Patrol by F.W. Meacham, composed in 1885 and later popularized by a swing-era Glenn Miller arrangement. This piece paints a musical picture of a marching patrol moving through town, weaving familiar tunes and evoking passing scenes, families, storefronts, parades. It's nostalgic, descriptive, and a little cinematic in how it strolls through American soundscapes. Please enjoy this lively reminder of America's early musical history. Our next selection, Give My Regards to George, captures the nostalgic humorous side of American popular song. Think of a traveler sending a cheerful shout out home. Upbeat, slightly teasing, and very much American music. We hope you're entertained by this jaunty musical walkthrough of everyday Americana with our lighthearted nod to the musical theater and popular song tradition. we offer a spirited glimpse of American musical theater and storytelling, and move to Rodgers and Hammerstein's Oklahoma, the 1943 musical that reshaped American theater by more fully integrating song, dance, and story. It's based on Lynn Rigg's 1931 play, Green Grow the Lilacs, set in farm country outside the town of Claremore in the Oklahoma Territory in 1906. It tells the story of farm girl Laurie Williams and her courtship by two rival suitors, cowboy Curly McLean and the sinister and frightening Judd Fry. The melodies are rooted in folk and rural life, and tonight's selections highlights the show's warmth, energy, and unmistakable American tunes that have kept audiences tapping their feet for generations. Sit back and enjoy Oklahoma. That was work. Hope you're enjoying tonight's concert. It really is a joy. It really is a joy for us to play for such a warm and enthusiastic audience like yourselves. Thank you. If this is your first GTO concert, welcome. The Georgetown Theatre Orchestra began in the fall of 2018 with about 8 musicians of varying experience, including me, dusting off a clarinet I hadn't played in about 10 years. Our music director, Stan Earnhardt, had 2 simple rules. First, make the music work with whatever player showed up, kind of a bit like the old silent movie and vaudeville bands that improvise their way through every show. And secondly, playing is fun. We're proud to include talented young musicians too. 4 high schoolers are on tonight's program. I'm especially happy to announce that we're awarding a scholarship to our second flutist, Naomi Reed, to help her with her college studies. We rehearsed here at the lovely Winyah Auditorium on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Wednesday nights. It is Thursday today. Sorry, I'm still on a different time zone. We rehearsed here at the lovely Winyah Auditorium on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. And we'd love for you to drop by a rehearsal and give us a try. All levels of musicianship are welcome. Full disclosure, we're going to be on summer break after this performance and return in the fall, which means now's the perfect time for anyone here to find their old instrument, get it out, start playing, so that you can join us in September. Now, if you don't play an instrument but want to support what we do, we gratefully accept donations. We're a nonprofit, and your gifts pay for things like rental of this lovely auditorium, piano tuning, and sheet music. I know you're being asked to support a lot of nonprofits now, and this week was Palmetto Giving Day. But if the GTO has put a smile on your face this evening, please consider contributing. We are passing the hat tonight. There's going to be a hat coming around? Okay, go ahead. We're going to be passing the hat tonight, and remember that any amount helps and is deeply, deeply appreciative. So we're going to take just a little pause while you get out your wallets, think about what you're going to put in, and take one more bill and put it in. We'll be back with you in just a minute. Patriot, a suite from the film score by John Williams. Written for the 2000 movie set during the Revolutionary War, Williams's music captures both the sweep of battle and the tender, intimate moments of family and loss. Listen for the noble brass and soaring strings that suggest courage and sacrifice, as well as the quieter, lyrical themes that remind us of what the fighting was meant to protect: home, family, and hope. This piece is a salute to service and communal resolve. The Patriot. the program, we're going to play John Philip Sousa's Stars and Stripes Forever, written on Christmas Day in 1896 and designated as the official national march of the United States by an act of Congress in 1987. Sousa's writing combines a brilliant brass score, crisp rhythms, and listen for it, the famous piccolo obbligato and the trio that always lifts the roof. Ready, Laura? And now, Stars and Stripes Forever. joining the Georgetown Theatre Orchestra as we celebrate 450 years of American history through music. Please join me in thanking our conductor, Stan Earnhardt, the musicians, and everyone who made it possible. We hope that you will inspire and enjoy